What if the secret to staying powerful and pain-free on the field wasn't about lifting heavier or training harder, but learning how to listen to your body? On this episode of the Right Angle Podcast, professional football player Myles Fox reveals how rethinking the basics transformed his game, his health, and his entire outlook on performance. Guys, welcome to the Right Angle Podcast. We got a great show tonight. My co-host, Jonathan Moore, and the special guest tonight is Myles Fox. Myles has been a pro football player for what? How long has it been now? 3-4 years?
Going into 4
right now, yeah. 4 years. Very cool. And we've been working together. We started working together way back. We had I think, when you were in high school, I think, for like a short period, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that on the way over here. I want to say it's like 6 or 7 years because I've been at GSP for 15.
Yeah,
since I was in like eighth grade, something like
longer
that.
Than you,
longer than me,
longer than me, and then longer than him.
Longer than Earl. The owner, he started it. You've been there longer than the owner.
Them.
Yeah,
exactly.
He was in the parking lot running sprints. He told Earl, "Hey, come develop.
Come inside. Yeah,
come inside. That's right. No, it's cool. But I would say consistently, we've been working together probably 3.5 years now.
3, 4, yeah.
So, and that's, we've been able to see some cool things happen with your body, look at your performance on the field, see the benefits of, the training. I think I want to talk about that tonight. I want the audience to kind of hear your own beliefs about what the training's done for your body, what you've been doing in your football career, kind of your aspirations moving ahead, and kind of your background. So I think I definitely kind of want to start with that. Just tell us a little bit about your background. It's funny because I know a decent amount about your background, but probably not as much as what some people would think. So go a little bit. You can start off even in high school.
Yeah, I'm never good with this. So I'm born and raised Lawrenceville, Georgia. Went to Collinsville High School, class of 2015. 28 this year. Old.
Man, old. They're gonna put you in the retirement home soon.
I know, right? But yeah, then I went to Old Dominion out of high school. Played there for 4 years. Got hurt my last year, so I entered the transfer portal because they had the little new rule that you could play in 4 games still redshirt.
Okay.
So then I transferred to Wake Forest and got hurt again right when I got there. And then I played there for 2 years. And then went to the Bills for a little bit.
Yeah,
and then I went up to Canada, BC Lions, went to Winnipeg for 2 years, and now I'm in Hamilton.
Nice.
Yep.
And the goal is to get back to the NFL.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Yeah.
Hit the Falcons up.
Hit the Falcons
up.
Right.
Please. If you're seeing this, add him to the roster.
Add him to the roster. This is going to sound a little bit cliche because I'm sure any trainer who works with athletes, they always have a slight bias. But of anyone that I'm currently working with who is not in the NFL but should be, and you said you've already been to the NFL shortly, but of all people who aren't in the NFL right now, you truly deserve to be there, not because of our the hard work that you've put in, which has been great. The level of dedication and consistency has definitely been there, but in terms of your performance and your capability as a football player, defensive tackle, to me, you belong in the NFL and you would do some damage. So
I appreciate that. Yeah,
100% agree.
And I think pretty much everyone I've talked to who's seen you play and then looked at you perform, they all agree. They say the same thing. So
just continue working hard, continue staying healthy, and I just feel like I'll get there when it's meant to be.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you had a kind of a slew of injuries early in your career, especially in college. But I feel like we were talking earlier before we even started the podcast tonight about how each offseason, how your body feels. You can talk a little bit about that, right?
Yeah, I feel like it gets better every offseason. So when I was at Old Dominion, I ruptured my plantar plate, my big toe. So the 2 sesamoid bones, they were turned sideways and ripped off completely. There was one the middle of my foot. Yeah, so I was down for, it basically is like turf toe to the nth degree, basically. Yeah, so it was the second game of the season where I hurt that, and it was my senior year. So I was like, I got to play through it. I'm trying to get drafted and everything, but I feel like God just sat me down and said, nope, you're done. Just, rest it and heal up. So then I rehabbed that for about 6 months. And then I was getting recruited by by Wake Forest in the transfer portal as I was rehabbing, and ended up choosing there. Went there I got there in January. I was still rehabbing. I got cleared in late March. And 3 days after I got cleared, I tore my Achilles in my other leg. So it was, I was out of football for about 2 years. And,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
See, these are details that like I knew about the injuries, but at the timeline, I didn't know some of this.
I didn't know it was
Yeah.
back to back either.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like
It
so
was-
back to back.
It was my first practice back.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So it was like 3 days in total. And I just felt a pop. I thought like someone that kicked me. It felt weird. I looked behind me and there was no one behind me, so I just knew that it was Achilles.
That's the injury that every athlete. I mean, all injuries are brutal, but the
Fearful,
Achilles,
very-
Yeah. It took me 14 months to get back. But luckily it was right before COVID. It was in April of 2019. So I was in my master's program at the time, and they told me that I could, take a semester off and come back in January and just resume the program. So I just went home and trained at Sports Medicine South, rehabbed and everything, and came back right after the pandemic. So I came back in January. The pandemic hadn't really hit yet. I think it was that January it hit, right? And then they sent everybody home in like February, March. So then I had extra time just to,
That's right.
yeah, extra time to train and everything. So I came home again. And then first game back, sacked Trevor Lawrence. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, first game back.
I didn't
sacked-
know that.
Hold on. Is that the picture framed in GSP?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
Man.
it was national TV, #1 Clemson, Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was crazy, yeah.
That's cool.
great.
All
So I
right.
prayed.
What year was that?
That was in 2020.
That was the COVID year.
Yeah,
okay.
COVID year. There was no one in the stands. They had like little cutouts of people in the stands,
Oh,
like little
man.
pictures.
That's
What was
great.
that
And
like?
they
That was
pumped
weird.
they pumped the fake crowd noise and everything to make it feel real, but it's crazy time.
Man, that's that's wild.
Pretty dope. But yeah, I see that picture all the time. So like, there you go. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I mean, those types of injuries. That's I mean, would you say that you have I always like to kind of grade athletes in terms of their bulletproof body or their resiliency, so to speak. Like I know, for example, Jonathan and I have talked. Neither of us have bulletproof bodies at all. Like if we do things incorrectly, our body suffers, and we see the negative ramifications. There's other athletes that I've worked with who they can train, with pretty mediocre form and get away with it and still be healthy. Would you say yours is a little bit more on the sensitive side? Like you have to be locked in,
I
right?
have to be locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like so last week we did the deadlifts, and I feel like I was kind of using my back a little too much, and then I kind of paid for it a little bit. I'm at a point now, since I've been doing the 90-degree stuff for so long, I'll see people online just doing all kinds of form, doing rows. It's like kind of all over the place. I just cringe watching that. Like,
especially if you've had injuries, because like, oh man, if I started doing that, like that would break me down.
like doing a squat and just like you notice, when something's out of place, because like holding a squat with the wrong form it's terrible. It's
awful,
especially for my body too. Like, I'll feel it right then. Like just being 100% locked in that perfect position. There's nothing that feels better, honestly.
Well, I think it's a combination of two factors for you. I think, your body maybe is a bit more sensitive, which I think in the long run is good because it forces you to master your form. And if things are off, you're essentially required out of necessity to fix it. Otherwise, your body's not going to be happy. But I think a big part of your reasoning why you have to be locked in is because of how strong you are and because of how much force you're able to produce and how much force you have to absorb also on the eccentrics. It's like with the type of loads you use, you're one of the strongest athletes I've worked with, just for people watching this. I mean, you've hit some pretty impressive numbers over the years. I mean, you're a consistent, repping 405 easily on bench, squat. I still want to get that 600. I think it's in you. It's just a matter of, we don't force PRs and 1 rep maxes. We let your body get stronger as it feels comfortable. And if you feel like going past 550, then hey, let's do it. If you feel like, hey, for today, kind of like the other day, you felt like, hey, my back's just a little sensitive today, 525 or something, I think is what you went up to that day. But your bar speed was through the roof. I mean, it looked like you could have easily hit 600. My point is, you've seen some of his lifts, right? It's like,
No, I was saying with me.
exactly.
600 plus. No, for sure. No,
But you've seen some of his best lifts. Some of his best lifts,
we
it's
used
like,
to train together.
Yeah, no, I know.
Off-season, we used to train together for sure, and it was man, it was very impressive. So
some of your best lifts, I mean, it looks like you have another 100 pounds in you, but the goal is not to like, oh, let's see what your one rep max is. The goal is to make you healthy and to optimize your performance so that when you are on the football field, things feel good.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like 90-degree methods really helped me, because I remember back in the day, I never would have thought that I could lift this much weight, especially like with the pause at the bottom, because I feel like most of the heavy weights I do is because of him. You know, I feel like I don't really trust myself all the time to do that much weight. You know, when I think I should be doing like 80-pound dumbbell, he said, "Oh no, go 120." You know, and I'm like, dang. But then like it's easy. You know, because I feel like the longer that I've been doing it, the more comfortable I get, the easier it gets, and the stronger I get.
Yeah,
it's, you know.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because we were talking about this the other day. This is your strongest off season I've seen.
Yeah.
And you're 28, 28. Usually at this stage, it's like you're just trying to kind of like maintain a semblance of strength while staying as healthy as possible. But as you were saying earlier, like this is the best you felt, the healthiest you felt, and the strongest you felt at 28.
Yeah.
And you guys were talking about like even for you, like your best off season
were the times where I had more training with you guys, and
Yeah.
you know we were working together, and I, you know obviously I was doing stuff on my own, but a lot of times with you and Earl and things like that. But I mean, just by watching you over the last couple of years, I mean, obviously the numbers have gone up tremendously. We've been super strong, but your muscle function's so much better.
Yeah.
And that's what it's coming down to, like you were saying.
Exactly.
He's 28. It's like you get to most people around that age, they're not going to necessarily continue to go up in this trajectory.
Yeah.
But that's because their muscle function kind of hits a point where they're not progressing in that. And you keep doing that every time you come in every offseason. So that's great to see.
Yeah, I feel so good too. Like I've never been at a point where I never had to do any kind of therapy with my lifting. I feel like before we started working together, I was, you know, whether it's a massage, whether it's going to the chiropractor, I would need that on like a weekly basis just to kind of maintain my body. But now it's like I don't need any of that stuff. You know, I feel great day in and day out.
It's awesome.
And, yeah.
people are gonna be like, you paid him to say all this. It's like, nah, man.
He didn't pay me anything, I promise.
No, but I mean, I think like what you were saying too, and I know you've noticed this. It's not just that you've gotten stronger. It's what's been the cause of you getting stronger has been your form has improved continuously, right? I mean, even like small adjustments.
Very small.
Yeah, like the head position, you know, keeping the head retracted and tall. Like you've noticed that in terms of like old injuries that you may have had, whether it's like some bicep stuff or shoulder or neck. Like you see the difference in some of those tiny adjustments. And I think you've become more just aware of that, your body awareness, your kinesthetic awareness, your ability to tune into when something's off. Like I don't have to always be there at your side telling you like something's off. Or if I do, it's like, hey, a tiny adjustment rather than like, hey, we got to build the whole movement, you know, back up from the foundation.
I think what started that is with us not looking in the mirror when we lift, you know, and then doing
So
that.
important.
Yeah.
So important.
Like I never thought about that until we started working together. Like, and then realizing how my body feels when I do that. It's just like muscle memory. You get the certain movements, and you know what your body needs, what feels the best, you know, and this gets easier over time. Yeah.
Well, you go by sense of feel instead of sight. Sight is a very slow sensory feedback system. It's obviously necessary, but we're talking like 300 to 500 milliseconds, especially if you're looking in a mirror, because like the processing speed of the image going back to your retina, then you have to process it, then you have to use that and transfer all that information back to your central nervous system to make the adjustments. We're talking up to a half of a second.
Yeah.
Whereas sense of feel is like 10 times faster. It's like 50 to 80 milliseconds. So if you take away the mirror, now you can catch those errors before they happen. And like you said, your sense of feel, your ability to fine tune your mechanics, it's enhanced tremendously.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's
awesome.
Well,
What would you say your favorite lift is? Out of all the stuff you've done, like I know a couple weeks ago you did that Chinese
plank bench.
We
were talking about that before you got here.
That was pretty awesome. But you've done a ton. So what would you say your favorite's been?
I'd probably say that one. Like, that's probably like pound for pound, like the most weight that I've done.
4 plates.
Yeah.
It's 4
Chinese,
plates and a 10. That was 425.
Yeah.
My apologies.
No. Because what's interesting is like I remember last off season. 405 was kind of like, now keep in mind when people are listening to this, it's not 405 bouncing it off your chest and using momentum. We're talking, hey, getting a pause, locking it in, no momentum, perfect technique, tucking the elbows, making sure your posture's locked in. Because if you don't, you feel it.
Yeah.
So I remember last off season, it was almost I wouldn't say a rarity, but it was almost like, okay, if you hit 405 during that workout, you were having a great day. You were having a strong day. This off season was like, okay, that was your kind of your baseline. Like, okay, now let's see if we can go past that. And you had multiple workouts this year. You were easily going past 405, and your weaker days were like, oh, 405 today. That's like that's what we'll top.
That's usually third set right there.
Yeah.
225, 315, and 405, and then we kind of just go from there.
Exactly. Yeah. So, no, I agree. The 315 single leg sprinter Chinese plank to bench press. That one was crazy.
Oh yeah, with the one leg up. Oh yeah.
Just holding that up without even doing a bench press. Like most people. 315. Most people tear their hamstring. Most people tear their hamstring with that because you're literally holding your body up on a two benches, your feet on one bench, your torso on another, and you're on one leg
while doing 315. Yeah, that's probably
That might be worse. I mean, you tell me how you felt from it. That's tough.
Oh no, it was terrible. But like, I want to say the China. That was not one fun by any means. But it was good. Like I feel like that was the most comments that I've gotten on like a video. Everyone swiped up on that one. Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Well, I think, you got these powerlifters that obviously you're strong, but they can lift even more than you because that's all they do. They're always trying to max out. But if you look at their muscle function, if you go to slightly more dynamic lifts that require even a slight amount of like motor control or more stability or more offset or single leg variations.
They wouldn't be able to do that. No.
They wouldn't be able to do it. So they look at that. You got some of these strong lifters who've been training for years. They look at something like that with the single leg. And in their minds, like, first off, they can't do it. Second off, if they could muster, the adrenaline to make it happen, they would probably tear something. So, like, but I mean, you see this with a lot of the unstable variations. You used to use maybe 40 pounds or 50 pounds on a single leg RDL in row. The other day, you did 120.
Yeah, because you made me.
He says because I made you. That's funny. Well, it's funny. I mean, I push athletes when they can be pushed, and I'll tell them to like, no. Yeah. You see me with some of the young guys, I'll make them go down in weight.
And then I do it, and it's easy. I'm like, oh, he was right. Like that.
It's a joke because it's like, it's so funny when you ask me like, hey, what weight should I use? You're always like, oh shoot, I hope he doesn't tell me to go up.
Because I know what you're gonna say, but then I kind of need the confirmation. I feel like
that extra. Go do it.
Yeah,
but it wasn't always. I really pushed you this off season. I think more than ever because your muscle function, like you said earlier, it's so high now. Your quality of movement is so high. I know you can do the movements without injury, without pain. Whereas in previous years, I would tell you, hey, let's dial it back a little bit, or let's maintain that weight for today. Let's work on your form. Now it's like, hey, you see you do 405 on bench with perfect technique. It's like, let's go up as long as you feel comfortable. I'm never, we don't push people past their comfort zone. We're not trying to max them out for the sake of maxing. But hey, I want to transition a little bit here because, I mean, as people know, the 90-degree thing is huge. Posture is huge. We can get more into that. But the foot mechanics and barefoot training is also something we focus a lot on. Whether people are wearing barefoot shoes or whether they're actually going barefoot or wearing toe spacers. You've worn toe spacers a decent amount. But I want to talk about how you've been able to overcome some of like the Achilles issues that you had early in your career, as well as like the big toe from that injury and what we've done to essentially allow you to overcome those issues and train hard by working on the barefoot mechanics. So
I'm going to start with the toe. So it was a point in time where I couldn't even do a lunge because my toe would be like hurting so excruciatingly pain. Like it was terrible because like I have very little range of motion in my toe. But we talked about a new technique of just like going on top of the toe as opposed to bending it all the way. And, that just eliminates all the pain from those lunges. And I think from that, my weight kind of just jumped up from there. And because I grew up with flat feet, I have flat feet and zero arch in my toe.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
You get arches now.
Like I wouldn't be able to function without orthotics, whether that was.
I almost forgot about that. Keep going.
Without whether it's like a Dr. Scholl that you would step on a little plate, at the CVS and stuff and get those, or I would go to the podiatrist and I would get custom made ones.
Right.
And if I didn't wear those for like, I'd say walking around all day and I don't wear them, my back will be hurting, my knees will be hurting. And then now just kind of venturing away from that, like you told me it was a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because I'm literally remembering this conversation from like 3 years ago when you were like, hey, I think what was going on was we were working on your technique, you were having some like maybe Achilles or foot issues or knee, something,
Yeah.
some small amount of pain. And I was like, man, your muscle function and form in the weight room is getting a lot better. It kind of didn't make sense to me. And then you just mentioned something about your orthotics. I'm like, whoa, you're still wearing orthotics? And then you were like, oh, I shouldn't be wearing them. I'm like, no, we got to get you off those.
Yeah.
And that was a huge transition for you, but it was like key, absolutely pivotal.
Yeah. Because I think I was just trying to fix the problem momentarily, and then you just wanted to fix the entire, like dig deep, figure out the root.
Yeah.
And that really changed everything. Now I feel really good. My toe feels good. Obviously, I feel the lack of range of motion, but the pain isn't there like it always was. And with my Achilles, so that kind of took me a long time to get through that. My other Achilles started developing tendonitis, and just some of the stuff that we do. Like something like when we squat, kind of go out on the edge of your
pushing
feet
the
and then
ankles out.
pushing the ankles out and pushing that toe down. That activates my feet so much, and it just helps everything else. Because you said like you always tell us that everything works, the whole body works together. So when my ankles are stronger, when my calves are stronger, when my feet are stronger, it helps everything around there. And just the pain in my Achilles essentially just kind of goes away. And it still creeps back up because I need to do a better job of activation, every single day, doing the maintenance things that, keep that pain away. But, so far it's been feeling great. Yeah.
No, I think that's, like you said, I mean, we're not doing anything magical to help you with your feet. It's basically proper mechanics, right? And making sure your feet are glued down, pushing the ankles out. So you're popping the arches up, pushing those big toes down, and making sure your feet are perfectly straight, which tends to look a little bit more pigeon-toed than what most people are used to.
Yeah.
But simply doing that, like if most people did that, the Achilles pain, the ankle issues, the toe issues that people struggle with, like those would pretty much be resolved just by fixing your foot mechanics on a foundational movement like a squat or a hinge or a lunge. You don't even need anything fancy. And like you said, staying on top of the daily activation, we're big on that with all of our clients, right?
Yeah,
everybody.
Even for ourselves. I mean, you have to do it, I have to do it.
For sure. Start, and then, the feet, the ankles. You said with the pigeon toe, I think, when people look at our stuff, some of them do think it's pigeon toes. So just a reminder, everybody, it's not pigeon toed at all. The foot is in a perfectly straight position.
Yeah.
The toe box is wider than the heel.
Yes.
So that's just a reminder. I've had some people comment on my stuff like, why are your feet pointing inwards? I'm like, they're not. They're actually aligned in a straight pattern and using the muscles from there. And that's how you're going to develop this proper, the drives in the feet and that come all the way up.
Well, we're so used to seeing the feet externally rotated from powerlifters and weightlifters and everyone wearing such a narrow toe box shoe and the feet and toes being crammed. It's like when they actually see a healthy functioning foot in a neutral
lot of them
position.
Think it's pigeon toe.
Yeah.
And it's not. That toe box is just wide and spread in the right spot. So
now on a lunge, to clarify that point, it
rotate
is
a little
going to
bit
be a
more.
little bit
Yep.
internally rotated, about 5 to 10 degrees because of the oblique slings, which we've talked about, that cross body or contralateral activation, which you've gotten really good at getting into those oblique slings. And I think that's been one of the things that's helped your big toe is with that back knee, firing that adductor, right?
Yeah.
And that's been huge because it allows you to stack the pressure. In fact, it's almost like the pressure is even more into the big toe, but it's straight through rather than being at an angle.
Yeah, exactly. And it feels so much better. You know, it's like night and day different.
Yeah. Well, you've been doing consistently lunges with 315, and this is the one that I brought up to you earlier. The one lift that you've done over the past, over the past years, but this one was a few weeks ago that really impressed me, was your 225 barbell lunge jumps. And they were explosive. You were landing and sticking those perfectly. I was like, what? And this was from someone who's struggled with lunges with your feet. It used to hurt, like your big toe, having even just body weight, doing lunge jumps, barbell lunge jumps with 225. Most people that would, that's unthinkable. And you were just absolutely crushing them. No issues. Form was perfect. So for me personally, just of seeing what you've done in the past, that one was like, okay, Myles has hit a new level of like muscle function here.
Because there was a point in time where I couldn't even practice without having my toe taped up, the big toe. And now, like, I feel comfortable doing that if I had to.
Yeah.
Because the range of motion itself in a lunge, it hurt, but the fact that I'm jumping off of it and landing, I feel like it's been night and day, like I said.
Well, something too that I want to just reiterate is that when you use 90-degree joint angles. When you go through a natural range of motion, you're able to maintain alignment from head to toe.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are able to stack the feet. You are able to stack pressure vertically through the big toe. But when you start going too deep, even just a little bit, what ends up happening is you sacrifice that optimal alignment. And now those force vectors, they're no longer stacked. So for someone who's had, big toe issues or Achilles issues or knee issues, those forces are not going straight through the joint. They have to go at an angle to compensate for the fact that you're using excessive range of motion. So this is one of the things that we always try to just emphasize, is that it's not so much that like, going past 90 degrees, it's so bad. It's that what you have to sacrifice to get there, that's the problem. It's like just the extra range of motion. Okay, physiologically, yeah, you're altering some of the length tension relationship of the muscles. There's some other science we've gone into and we're going to continue to go into on that. But it's like what you have to sacrifice in terms of alignment to get there. And you've seen this, right? Even on your bench press, right? Like sometimes you've gone a little too deep and you'll feel like maybe just a slight shoulder twinge, or you'll feel like, that didn't feel like a good rep. And then it's like, nope, find those lats, get your posture locked in, find your 90-degree spot. And then it's like, it comes together like a puzzle.
Yeah, like we did, I think it was a couple weeks ago. I didn't engage my lats enough. I think it was like 4 or 5, and I could like barely get it up.
Yeah.
But then you told me that after. So then we went up to like 425, something like that, and it just flew up.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how this one little adjustment, changes, 20 pounds of weight,
Yeah. But part of that speaks to your ability to understand these cues because you've been training for a while. But also, I don't know if you've noticed this. We've talked about this over the past years, and even with some other athletes who I've trained for longer than like a year or two. We've tried to simplify the cues. Have you noticed that? Like, it's not very complex anymore. It's basically, hey, lock your posture in, right? Lock your core in, lock your feet in, and then everything else kind of comes
small
together.
Adjustments, fine tuning.
Yeah.
So that's the
things
big three:
from there.
feet, core, posture. That's what we stress. I stress everyone, clients, you guys, things like that. Feet, core, posture, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
And it's such a big difference. You know what I mean when it comes to them. And, having simple cues in their head, like, okay, I set my feet in, set my core in, set my posture in on any exercise, whether you're just doing a balance, whether you're putting 6 plates on the bar. It's like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it applies to everything, and then it helps tremendously.
Because even back to that bench press, I remember when I watched you do it, it was a little bit asymmetrical, meaning like one arm came up first, like it was a little tilted. It just wasn't clean.
Instead of like pull this shoulder here, line it, it's like pack the lats down.
Exactly, which is
And then
posture.
boom.
But it could have been so easy. Even for me, I still have to be careful I don't fall prey to this of over-analyzing it and over-cueing it, being like, tuck this elbow here. No, pull the bar this way. Nope, the right shoulder's too low. It's like, no. Fix your posture. And then all those little issues, they resolve themselves. And that's all the cueing I gave you. Like, hey, fix your posture, which that'll help you find your lats. That did it. And now it was symmetrical.
Sense of feel comes from.
And then when you do that.
Yes, your sense of feel.
Yep.
That's a great point. Posture. That if you don't have good posture, your sense of feel goes out the window.
Yeah.
And that's a great point you just brought up. And
That's it. And then what I was just saying right there was kind of what we were talking about at the beginning. When you do that, that's when it fits into that 90-degree spot, like a glove that fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And then you go from there. So
you don't have to force the 90-degree thing. It happens.
it'll happen. It will happen when you put it in the right spot, because that's where your body wants to move, and it's going to be optimal.
Because I don't even think about it anymore. I just kind of, wherever it feels right, I'll just know that's where I stop and then go back up,
Well, that even kind of to transition over to like your football mechanics or your skills work and what you do in terms of football specificity, because obviously, getting you strong in the weight room, getting you locked in the weight room, people might be thinking like, hey, well, this guy's not a professional weightlifter. You good with the seat there?
Man, it ain't my fault.
Yeah. But what's the most important thing is making sure you feel good on the field, and that these habits that you learn in the weight room, these improved motor control skills, these improved alignment capabilities, that it transfers to the field. I want you to talk about that a little bit and explain how you feel now on the field, running, cutting. You're a defensive tackle, so go ahead.
I feel like, I never told you this, but I had a lot of groin issues growing up. And my running mechanics just off, say, the squats has changed how it translates to the field so well, because I used to run with my kind of toes out,
knees out,
knees out and everything.
Bow-legged kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like ever since we've started working together and fixing those problems, I feel much better sprinting. The groin problems go away. Like I haven't dealt with those since probably like high school.
Yeah.
You know, just simple things like that. But I feel great on the field.
Your running form, I mean, you're what, 285 roughly, right?
Yeah.
I've never seen a 285-pound dude who's like, you're 6'1", 6'2", what are you?
6 foot 6'1".
Yeah, I mean, a 285-pound guy that's under 6'2", I've never seen anyone sprint as well as you and so fluidly. I mean, you move really well, and it's fast. I mean, you've seen him.
I was running
sprint.
40s with you about a month ago. We were covering 40-yard dashes with some of the other guys. And, I mean, long story short, it was fast.
Yeah.
It was fast. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that's impressive
Yeah.
getting out. I was like, wow, that's great. So
Every time my clients are in there and they see you sprint, they're like, "Is that Myles?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, that's Myles. He can move for
Yeah.
a big dude."
absolutely.
It's crazy because, well, you know, all the stuff we do with Earl. Earl does a great job with, you know,
Speed and
yeah,
agility
speed and
stuff.
agility
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff, and keeping us ready on that front. But then my body just feels so good with, you know, after lifting and everything. Usually, like growing up and everything, lifting makes you sore.
Yeah.
You know, lifting just makes you not want to do any running the next day. But you know, I can probably count on probably two hands how many times, maybe one hand, how many times we've been sore after your workouts. Like I just feel really good. But yeah, we're still getting stronger.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still getting, you know, lean and everything. And
Think about how much that helps with your performance and
Yeah.
your efficiency going into the next day and into the next week and into the next month and
Exactly.
into the next season and then the next off season. You know, like as we were talking about, you're 28, you're feeling better and better each off season. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the compounded interest of doing these lifts, depositing that every time you come in, feeling better, enhancing that muscle function. It's just awesome.
yeah, because if I'm so sore after my lift, I'm not gonna, you know, produce the same product on the field the next day
Right.
because I'm gonna be too sore to do anything.
Right.
But I feel great. after
Obviously,
that.
you
Yeah.
need your rest, especially as a football
Yeah,
player,
yeah,
right?
definitely.
But it's like, I mean, I can even speak for myself, right? Of doing this stuff as a former football player. Tremendous difference.
Yeah,
Absolute
like,
game
night and
changer.
day. I'm telling you.
Absolute night and day. Yeah.
It's funny because there's a lot of research showing that eccentric training, or emphasizing the eccentric portion of the contraction, like the lowering phase, that there's some research showing that it can cause so much micro trauma or tearing down of the muscles that individuals can be sore for like number of consecutive days, 3, 4, 5 days, and it compromises their force producing capabilities for sometimes several weeks
Yeah.
after that bout of training. And so for me personally, and I think the research does show this, or at least supports it, I can't prove it, but it's that excessive range of motion that creates those micro trauma or those micro tears that creates or leads to that excessive delayed onset muscle soreness. And that's why we can train hard, we can train heavy, and we still emphasize the eccentric, but you don't get that sore. It's because their range of motion is ideal, and you're not creating those micro tears to the same extent that traditional range of motion would create. But yeah, no, that soreness that you get on the outside part of the pectoral near the tendon, that's just an indicator that you're disrupting those sarcomeres and those Z discs, which is an indicator that you've over torn the muscle, you've overstretched it. Now you've disrupted that optimal length tension relationship. And because you've torn the muscle down too much, there's a good chance it can't recover or repair itself in a timely fashion. So now imagine as an athlete, if you're always in a state of compromised force production, like that would be problematic, even the off season, right?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine going out to the field and like, oh, I can't sprint as fast today because my legs are so sore. Like that happening literally every day or every other day. You wouldn't like that. And your body gets used to functioning at a lower capacity or a compromised capacity, and your nervous system takes to that. Like if you're sprinting at, say, consistently 18 miles per hour when you should be hitting 19, like even when you recover, your body's probably going to default back to a slower 18 mile per hour sprint because that's what your nervous system is used to. So we want to be optimizing performance even during the week of your, off season.
Yeah.
Even though we're not trying to peak you then.
So I've talked to guys who around the league who I talk to who actually see your stuff, and they try to talk down about it and say, this is why I go full range of motion. I feel like it's important to be in compromising positions and be strong in those compromising positions. And I always say it doesn't make any sense to me because, as a D lineman, for example, if you're in a compromising position trying to be strong, I feel like, that's just injury waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And
you did something wrong, right? If you're in a severely compromised position, like you potentially you didn't do something right.
Yeah.
But I mean, you oftentimes are in a slightly compromised position, but like you're able to handle it because your muscles and your body's functioning properly.
Yeah,
right?
or you can quickly correct it.
Yeah.
because
Here we
you
go
know,
again.
Yeah.
It's why would you do bad for your body to be prepared to do the bad?
Yeah.
When it comes to your strength training setting with all those weights and all that load, you need to be functioning and lifting in a proper way that helps you and makes you feel good. So then when you go on the field, because you're going to practice those compromised positions in your footwork and in your practices and your individual and your team runs, in your games, you're going to be practicing that on the field. So why would you in turn have to break your body down when you play sports? Because a reminder to everybody, sports is not a therapeutic activity. It's not.
Exactly.
So when you go back to your strength training, why would you go back to doing it in the compromised positions, 5-6 plates, tearing your body down more, then go back to do sports, tear your body down even more?
Yeah, you're not going to make it through an 18-game
Exactly.
season.
So just once again, it's like do good in the strength training setting to be able to set your body up to be prepared to do the compromised and the bad on the field and whatever that entails. Because you're going to practice those skills and that stuff when you're playing football. You're going to do so much of that. Don't do it with the weights and things like that. You're going to tear your body down. And just to add on to that, how many amazing athletes do we know personally or have just been watching, whether it be football, any other sport, that have done tremendous things on the field? But you're thinking in your head, if they were incorporating the training and the methods that we're teaching, how much better they would have even been. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Players gone from amateur pro to actual pro. Players go from a backup to a starter. You never know. But it's like, imagine that turnover and that consistency over and over and over again of, like you said, 19 miles per hour in their workout instead of 18.
Right.
19 miles per hour in training camp instead of 18. Just giving that analogy.
No, for sure.
And you turn that over, again, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. I mean, that could change people's lives financially and their careers and things like that. Seriously. So
I think that's what's been going on with you is like you've been getting progressively better each off season and each season instead of like getting worse, which it would be expected because you're in your late 20s and age and then just the damage and wear and tear of the sport and even just training. But it's like no, you're getting better. But with that said, have you ever noticed that you have mobility restrictions or you have functional restrictions on the playing field because you don't train deep?
No. In short answer, I feel like I feel better than I ever have because I've been doing this stuff and because I don't do, deep squats or anything. I truly believe that those don't help. Like squatting with your feet out like this, going, butt to calves, I don't see any real benefit in there.
Yeah. Imagine training like that though. Even I want to go back to that deadlift. You mentioned the deadlift earlier, and that was, I always say I rarely have athletes do conventional deadlifts, and that was as close to a conventional deadlift the other day that we'd ever done because I was having you guys do kind of like a speed deadlift with chains, and it was kind of intended to be light, but then you and Richard and I think Jaden started like, oh, I want to show you up, and then you guys started pushing each other, and what was meant to be like a 3 plate and chains or even 4 plate and chains, you got up to 5 plates and chains. I think it was like 550 at the bottom and 650 at the top.
Yeah.
But I want to bring this up because this was a rare example where you did have a slight tweak, right? Like your back was feeling a little funky for a few days. But imagine going through that type of training
over and over and over. You speak for yourself, right? But that'd be tough.
Oh yeah. No. Well, first of all, pride in the weight room is not really a good thing all the time. You know, when you're constantly pushing each other and wanting to, better your friends, it can get, it's ugly sides of it. But I couldn't imagine doing that every single day and then be expected to go out and perform at my highest on the field. It doesn't seem logical at this point. Like, so people say that in high pressure situations, when you're tired, you always resort back to your level of training. And I feel like when you're training like that, you're not going to last the whole season. You're not going to stay healthy because, you're training your body, to be in compromising situations and not, feeling its best,
Well, I think too, it's also because the nervous system is very pliable. Yeah. So how you train in the weight room transfers to how you move on the field. Like you said, when you used to squat with your toes out, deep ass to grass with your groin overstretched, well, what are you going to do when you sprint? You're going to mimic those same mechanics. So now it's like if you are training with poor mechanics in the weight room, not only are you in faulty positions that are compromised in the weight room, but you're more likely to end up in those compromised positions on the playing field.
Because of muscle memory. Yeah.
Muscle memory. And it transfers to everything. Squatting transfers to how you walk, how you run, how you pick something up.
As a D-tackle.
Yeah.
Yo, yeah.
I mean, getting down low and get up in the pads, and then just, I just being a football player myself, and then just whatever football entails, because football is a dangerous sport. It's an awesome sport. I think it's the best thing in the world, but, when especially the position you're playing, I mean, you're doing everything. You're getting hit. Like you're the same with Joe. We were talking about mechanics when running and things like that. Then you add on to that all the hitting, all the runs, all the stuff, like compounded on that. Man, you got to get your body right to be able to do that. And that's what I was just saying earlier. I just want to reiterate once again. How many amazing players have we seen that have been training the traditional ways? It's like, imagine if they had this with that, how much better they could have been, even though they were great. I just know people, I'm thinking in my head, that's just how I work. I'm like, man, this guy could have been that much better if he was able
trying to
do
bring
this
it to the winning team.
So, yeah.
It's crazy.
Actually, that leads me to a question that I wanted to ask regarding, like, you usually train with a small group, usually college athletes, some pro athletes train in that group as well. But I just want you to kind of you've noticed some of these younger guys. We've even had a few like Jordan who just got there literally, I think 1 month ago. And you've been able to see some of the results that these young guys have been producing, even just 1, 2, 3 months of training. Because people look at you and be like, okay, this guy's an advanced lifter, maybe it works for him, but some of these younger dudes who need to build a foundation, it's not going to work as well for them. But some of these improvements that these young guys recently,
unbelievable,
it's been crazy.
And I mean that. Like I've seen, we both work with the same crew of guys, you and the other guys. Just seeing in the off season, I am so impressed with like the improvement of some of the guys, and how quickly they've been doing it. And I've seen that off season after off season, and even people that are just going year round training with myself, but then just watching a bunch of you other guys, it's unbelievable. Ground that they're making.
Like Jordan hit 225.
We had a whole session today, and just fine tuning everything, and it was world of different compared to when.
Oh yeah, did you see the first day? Literally, it was a month ago. I think it was 30 days ago.
Like 35s, if that.
Not even. I think we literally started 25s or 30s because he just finished doing rehab, and the PTs were like, no, you need to go real slow, and he was nervous about even using 25s or 30s. You could tell, like his mentality about training.
How could it not? Though?
It was scared.
Yeah.
He was scared.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even doing D-line work with him, he was afraid to use that arm, just against the back. You know, that doesn't weigh much. And, he would say, I would always tell him that, the hardest thing is getting your mental back from that, from a surgery. And just the leaps and bounds that he's made. Because he came to us, was it 3 months? And now he's at 4? Or it hasn't even been a month yet, has it?
It hasn't been. No, he's been with us for exactly 1 month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think he said it was 4 months from surgery.
Yeah, it's impressive what he's doing. I mean, you had him doing a seated, the strict overhead press with no back support seated, and his mobility was looking awesome. I mean,
joint angles were great.
Yeah,
and then he was even talking about, man, this feels awesome. You could feel that confidence building up. And real quick to add on what you're saying, he was a little hesitant on things like that. And then to go on what I was saying with you. How could he not, though?
Yeah.
Because he's been put in those compromised positions, and previously it's like, if I'm going to bench, and I've benched how many years in a row now, and it's led up to this problem, and when I do bench like that, it's hurting.
Yeah.
It
makes you not want to do it anymore.
Yeah. Obviously, now that we got him, bought in and everything, and he realizes the change, his neuromuscular efficiency, and it's actually played out in his body. But, it's just a reminder to all these people, just because you're lifting and you're hurting yourself or you're not able to perform optimally doesn't mean that you should give up on it or throw it away or take it up. It's how you're doing it. It comes back down to your mechanics, and 90 degrees will emphasize that and optimize that as best as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's that pain science. We've probably not talked about this too much. We have on the podcast. There's a topic, or there's a field in, I guess you could call it sports psychology, and even related to exercise physiology a little bit, pain science. It's actually a field, and people do study that. But for quite a few years, up until around 5 or 6 years ago, the consensus amongst many of the professionals and experts was that for many of these musculoskeletal forms of pain and even injuries, it was all in their mind. It was just in their head, and they just had to kind of retrain their brain and their mind to get over those pain signals and just to override it. And, that lasted for about 5, 6 years, and then people started tuning into like, this is not working. It's something physiologically that's going on. And like you said, we free up people's minds by first getting them to feel healthy. And then you can see it in Jordan's face. Like he's actually like pumped and kind of like, instead of timid, it's like, he's like, oh man, I'm like, he's excited. He's like, wow, that feels good. I want to keep lifting. Not like, I don't know about coming back in and lifting and all that. So it's
they were saying, hold on, just to revert back, the people were saying the pain was just in your head.
It's basically what pain science came down. They said it's like this multifactorial issue that, yes, it could be physiological, but a lot of it could be psychological. A lot of it could be environmental. It could be things dealing with your past history that trigger a pain response, and if you can figure out how to rewire that. And so there was pain science education courses that people would take, and they finally did studies on this and showed that it didn't work. It's like, no, if somebody is experiencing pain,
it's a little whack to
it's
me.
because there is something. Well, because
smoking good up there.
Okay, let me give you a brief, just a 30-second background of how this started. It was in the early 2000s. You had the new functional fitness trend that came along. Okay, and so you had previously it was the bigger, faster, stronger. Train heavier. And that's going to be your secret to getting bigger. And that was like the 90s. Okay, well, everyone started getting injured. And so you had some of these other fitness gurus come along, and they were kind of on the right track. It's like, no, we need to focus more on like functional movement, not so much on powerlifting and not so much on Olympic lifting, but focus on quality of movement. Okay. And they were on the right track, but because they didn't define what proper parameters of movement were, that failed. And so 6-7 years go by, and they're like, this functional training trend that we thought was going to work, that seemed to be based on biomechanics and structural muscle physiology and neuromuscular physiology, it didn't cut it. So they had to come up with a new excuse of how to justify how their athletes and everyone was still hurting with traditional training. So there comes the pain science trend. And to this day, no one has been able to like, and I'm not saying I've cracked the code or we've cracked the code, but I think we have kind of come upon something.
Crack the code.
Yeah, I feel like we have.
Okay, fine. We've cracked the code. We've cracked the code. Okay, we've cracked the code without sounding, arrogant. And God gets all the glory for all these things. It's not anything that we do. It's nothing that I can boast about. It's I've tried to stay close to Him and pray and let Him lead me and guide me over the years of bashing my head against the wall with traditional methods. And, finally, instead of Him healing my body, because I've already expressed on other podcasts how I had a lot of pain and issues, and I always prayed, like, can you heal my body, God? Like, heal my body. Well, He gave me a better answer. It was like, hey, I'm going to show you
how to do it,
how to fix your body scientifically so you can help others experience the same thing and ultimately point them back to Him. And
that's the pain science right there.
That's the pain science. That's the pain science. But this, I think this is a good segue to talk about your, we talk a lot about not just fitness and football and training, but even spiritual topics and faith. Your Instagram page has transitioned a little bit over the last several months. I want you to talk a little bit about that.
So I've always, wanted a platform, as y'all know, I've, been through a lot of injuries, a lot of, adversity in my life. And I've always wanted a platform to kind of give God the glory and tell my testimony and show how He pulled me out of that dark place. So, the same can happen to anyone who's watching. And when I didn't make the NFL the first time around, it really hurt me because I was like, dang, like, Lord, I thought that was going to be it, for me to really have that platform to do everything that You called me to do. But then opportunity came, a guy named Danny Rodriguez. He helped me kind of get into not only, putting my faith, out there for everyone to see, but kind of online coaching in a way too. So I do my faith posts and just kind of, doing my show, like basically sharing my testimony and problems that I go through on a daily basis, problems that I can be at church something like that. And I'll hear the pastor say a word or something he's talking about, and I'm like, that's something a lot of people struggle with, so I talk about that. I make a video on it, and I just try to be as sincere as I can, and just kind of, help people. The whole premise of this.
Powerful.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah. The whole premise of this is to help people, draw people closer to God. Because I feel like when I was, down bad, I really didn't have any place to run but to God, And I just kind of want to just let people know that, you may be down right now. Things may be hard, but God always will get you through it. You always got to go through hell before you can, see what heaven feels like, So,
if you look at, if someone was to look at like my time or watch time of typical videos, especially ones that are longer than 10 seconds, it's like super short. I'm pretty antsy when it comes to Instagram. I literally watch all, like, your videos when they come up. They're so good and they speak to me, and I feel like they're so pertinent to not just me but to everyone, and they're so well done and you articulate it so well. If it's 37, if it's 50 seconds, I watch the whole thing because I'm captivated by it,
that
and it speaks to me. So I keep doing it, man. Keep,
50 seconds.
Appreciate you.
no, but I mean, they are slightly longer videos. People on Instagram, even with exercise.
I was just playing with it.
Well,
Yeah.
seconds.
Well, I know for me, if a video is over 10 seconds, chances are it's not going to do well. Yours are a little bit longer because you're talking about some pretty deep material and pertinent things that people need. But I think it's speaking to everyone.
Yeah, I'll start with the hook. If you have a good hook,
Yeah.
they'll figure out, like, what's this video about,
Yeah.
So I try to get a good hook and then have a good message behind it to keep people reeled in. Because I actually looked at my insights the other day, and like it was like 30-some% of people watch past the first like 5 seconds. I'm trying to get that number higher, but it'll eventually reach the people it needs to reach.
It's going to,
Yeah, no, it's been a great encouragement, to see, and then it's going to impact so many young athletes and things like that to look up to you and are around the area and things like that. So just keep doing it, man. Let God take the wheel with that, and keep doing your thing with that, man. It's a great page, great stuff.
Well, it's cool to just see you. I think this off season. I feel like this off season's been pretty cool because, like, not just witnessing your improvements in the weight room and your muscle function and seeing you develop as an athlete, but as a person in terms of your career path, but also spiritually and just as a human.
And then you got engaged, right?
Yeah, you got engaged. Yeah, you're getting married.
Yeah.
Got engaged in Made in Colombia on New Year's Eve.
That's awesome.
That's amazing,
Getting
man.
married in December.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That's
Amazing.
very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting. But unfortunately, you're leaving us, right? Because you're going to Charlotte. But you're going to come back periodically.
Oh
and still
yeah.
train.
Home is always Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll be back probably once a month. But yeah, we're moving to Charlotte.
Nice.
Right after the season. So
That's awesome.
Currently looking for a house now.
Very
He'll
cool.
be back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons. Exactly.
Yeah.
A few more questions before we wrap this up. I think a lot of younger athletes do look up to you because your experience, your expertise, and even just being such a strong dude. I mean,
6 plates on the bar, 7 plates on the bar. The young kids are looking.
Exactly. They're, to reach young athletes, sometimes impressive feats of strength or just impressive film or whatever that tends to reach them. But what advice would you give to younger athletes? Because you were in that position, years ago.
Yeah, I'd probably say, don't let anybody steer you away from your goal. Because as you're like in high school, middle school, that's when you're doing all your dreaming. All your, what I want to be when I grow up. And I feel like that's so important because you're going to have somebody in your life tell you that you aren't good enough to do that. I had a 7th grade teacher. I'll never forget, or maybe she was 8th grade. I don't know. But she told me that I would never play pro football. She said, the stats. She said the stats are, so small. She said, you'll never do that. I think you should find something else to do. And I could say her name on here. I'm not going to, but I remember it to this day, and it just really, it drives me to this day that, I'm here now, and like you said, God gives all the glory, and I'm just glad I never listened to that, because I'm a firm believer if you can believe it, the mind can achieve it, and you keep God first, and I feel like He will, reveal to you the calling He has on your life, and
Yeah, no, for sure. And
Yeah.
I think coming back to, just the page and everything else you got going on in addition to that, right? I think his calling for you is increasing in your life. Big, the challenge is going to get bigger and bigger, but you're going to hurdle over those. And we can, this off season, I've seen a big growth in you, just being as a
Appreciate
friend
that.
and over there and then for the last couple of years. So it's been awesome to see, man.
Yeah, I feel like this whole offseason, ever since like I got engaged with Aaliyah, I just feel like God has really transformed my life, and I don't know. It was a point in time where I never could like sit in front of a camera and start talking. Like
That's
it just-
changed a little bit.
Yeah, I was about to
slightly.
say.
I mean, you're doing a great job with this, and all your posts that you put on Instagram.
It's just like when people like hear a recording of themselves, they never like it. That's how I kind of felt starting
I
out.
think we're all like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
But yeah, I get comfortable with each video I put out, and yeah, I feel like God is really transforming my life, and I'm excited. Yeah.
Well, He's preparing you for bigger and better things to come in the future, and that's why staying in His will, which I think is vital for all of us, and also making sure that we're doing things not just to praise ourselves and to make ourselves look good, but to give him the glory and to elevate him, and then he'll bless you and his favor will be upon you. And I think that's what we're all trying to do, and something I still have to get better at.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the direction we're trying to go in. Definitely.
Sure.
Pro athlete. You've been a pro athlete for quite a few years now. College background was pretty extensive. What advice would you give to professional athletes?
I'd probably say, stay true to who you are and don't let the outside forces change you, and don't compare yourself to anybody. Because I feel like it took me 14 days to get my first call to the Buffalo Bills. And, I went up there for camp. They ended up not keeping me. But I felt like it was so easy to compare myself to who was up there, compare myself to other guys who had opportunities. Like, oh, I had better stats than him. I move better than him. I'm stronger than him. But he got the opportunity. I didn't. I feel like that's just like a toxic, it's a toxic hole you don't want to go down. It doesn't do anything for you. I feel like you just stay on your path and just keep working hard, and it'll eventually work out for you. And to stay true to who you are, I feel like you got where you are for a reason in pro football or pro sports in general. I feel like a lot of coaches, a lot of outside forces try to change who you are. And this is not me saying you can't get better and add on to your game, but I feel like sometimes they try to say, oh, you're good at this, but I'd rather you do this. I think they need to stay true to what got them to where they are.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you? And then add from there.
Yeah, exactly. You can always build and get better, but stay true to your foundation and your identity.
That's great. My final question for you, kind of to play on that a little bit, but so, we're talking about faith and things like that in your journey. So I just want to ask you specifically, how has Jesus influenced your journey just as an athlete and a pro football player over these years?
Yeah, I just feel like he just keeps blessing me and blessing me and blessing me. I feel like he's pulled me out of some dark paths. God is really, like when I tore my Achilles and tore my toe, I felt like after I tore my Achilles, I didn't want to play football anymore. I called my mom on the sideline. I want to say it wasn't a spring game. It was like a scrimmage before the spring game. And I was laying on that training table crying. And I used one of the trainer's phones to call her. And I was like, I'm done. I can't go through all this rehab again. And she said, shut up. Don't be stupid. You've been through too much. You've come too far just to quit. And I'm glad she told me that, because I feel like I wouldn't be where I am right now, and, being able to overcome that, I just feel like, if I can make it through every single bad day that I've been through in my life, there's no limit to what God can do in my life,
That's good stuff right there. I think the last thing I want to ask you, this one I've never asked anyone on the podcast this before, let alone any athlete. I've learned, I think you might not realize this, but I've learned a lot from you. I know you've obviously learned things from me, but I've learned a lot from you just because of how you've developed. I like to learn from all my athletes, but particularly you, because of how much you've developed as not just in the weight room and as an athlete, but as a person, spiritually. So I value your advice so much so that my last question is, if you had any advice for me, we've talked about kind of the future of what I'm trying to do. I don't want to get too specific here, because people will see this in a few months, I think, as we release things more and more. But there's going to be a little bit of a transition with my page and even some of the books I'm going to be releasing and the content that we're going to be producing. Do you have any advice for me?
Oh, I mean, you already know that I think you're probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met. But
Without a doubt.
Yeah, without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I'd probably say, like, don't be afraid to show people who you are on your page, because you post a whole bunch of workout videos and everything. And I think I told you before, when I went up to Canada, like, they said you were like a big name up there, and very controversial for some people, but I feel like a lot of people don't know the real you. I feel like
so true.
Yeah,
so true. Yeah.
I feel like one thing with content creators on Instagram is one thing that they really pull their audience in with is they feel like they know the person they're watching. That, like, I can't think of someone off the top of my head, but like say these couples that are on Instagram, like, people feel like that they're friends with them. They know everything about them. I feel like, you go into your testimony a little more, talk more about yourself, I feel like people will, I feel like we draw a lot more people in. You already have a huge following as it is.
I think that's good because it's been pretty business
Mm-hmm.
oriented in terms of like sticking to the training, it's still going to, but I think going deeper into some of my beliefs and how they impact and just basically how they impact the training and vice versa, and going a little bit deeper into that. I think, some of the spiritual topics, obviously too, I think,
for sure.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. I think it's been pretty one dimensional, which I don't think, I can fault myself too much for that because
I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
No, but I think what you're saying resonates, and I think you're right on, and I think that's where God's pointing me. So that's great advice right there. That's perfect. I love it. I take it to heart. I take it to heart.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. Like I said, I value your opinion and the friendship that we've developed over the years, and just mutual respect. I think it's very cool. So people can follow you. What's your Instagram account?
Myles_Fox.
Myles_Fox. Simple. Yeah, guys, definitely check out his material. He's got some great stuff on Instagram. Training, fitness, spiritual, motivational. Definitely check his stuff out. And like I've mentioned on other podcasts, I've got my free book out, Movement Redefined Fundamentals. It goes over all the training stuff that we just covered on here and much more. It's completely free, no strings attached. Check it out at advancedhumanperformance.com. And I think that's it for tonight. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.